do is, if you please rise, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll start us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Well, we are very excited to have you here this morning. The West Los Angeles Chamber is an organization that is dedicated and passionate about helping businesses in the West LA area. In fact, our mission, we believe very strongly in our mission, and that is to enhance business opportunities for businesses in West LA through referral, advocacy, and education. So those are our three pillars: referral, advocacy, and education. So what we're doing here is providing an avenue for referral. Now, raise your hand if you have ever received a referral from a fellow member of the Chamber of Commerce, whether it was to do business directly with them or it was one of their colleagues or somebody that led to closed business. So raise your hand if you would. Raise them high, raise them high. All right, so most of the veterans who've been in this chamber more than a couple of months have received referrals from West LA Chamber. The bottom line is that our goal is to help people grow relationships with like-minded business owners to help each other's business grow. So are you guys interested in developing relationships with like-minded business owners to help their business grow? Yeah. All right, very good. Education and advocacy. Well, education, there are opportunities for West LA Chamber members to go to various workshops and seminars put on by our members to learn about various aspects of running a business and successfully growing your business and things like that. And then advocacy. Advocacy. We have, as a chamber, our goal is to make sure that the elected officials and the appointed officials understand the needs of the West Los Angeles businesses. Because if we don't have a voice, if we don't actually make sure that we're making a lot of noise, then our needs will not be met. So today we actually have a speaker, Assemblymember Ridley-Thomas will be here today. So a round of applause. I'm not here yet, but very excited to have him here today. So not only will you be able to hear his presentation, but you'll be able to ask him questions and bring up issues that are near and dear to your heart and the success of your business. I do want to thank our sponsor for today. Our sponsor is New Directions. Molly Ann, please stand up. New Directions. And our director as well. Actually, I apologize. I didn't see you. Welcome. It's good to have you. So good to see you. You'll be hearing from them a little bit later. They're going to be doing a presentation as well. All right. So let me see, raise a hand if you are a first-time breakfast visitor, whether it's you're a member of the chamber or just a guest. Raise your hand if you are. So let's welcome our guests, everybody. Great to have you. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a couple of rounds of table networking. We're going to hear a presentation from from New Directions, our sponsor, as well as a presentation from the Assemblymember. So what order those happen in will be determined solely upon the arrival time of our Assemblymember. So just be flexible with me today, and we will go with the flow, but we will do 2 rounds of table networking for sure. Does that sound good? Sure. All right, excellent. One of the things I like to do in the beginning of most of our meetings is have time for testimonials. If anyone wants to thank another member of the chamber for a referral that they received, or wants to thank another chamber member for a great job that they did for them, I would love to hear that. So do we have any testimonials today? I actually have a couple, but I want to make sure I give a chance. Does anyone have any testimonials from business that they, or somebody who did a great job for them? Ted?
Good morning. I just wanted to thank Barbara Schmaltz. I don't think she's here, but
Barbara today.
I don't know, but she helped my wife Cindy get her health insurance, and she had California handled my insurance, so she's great. I want to thank Barbara. Does a great job. So if you need health insurance, considering California care, call Barbara Schmaltz.
Great, thank you. Awesome. Any other testimonials? I saw a couple hands. Yes.
I just want to thank Tia Legowski from Edge Salon, who does a great job on my hair. Not today, but.
Awesome, Tia. Thank you very much. Tia also does my hair, so I always say, if you like the way my hair looks, it was Tia that did it. If you don't like my hair, it's because I'm incompetent, actually, in making my hair look the way she makes it when I leave the when I leave the salon. So I'd like to put a thank you out to Robert Warren. Robert, stand up. My daughter was on a trip recently to Dominican Republic, and Robert sells travel insurance, so insurance for individuals or families who are going on a trip. It's very interesting kind of a program. It was very inexpensive. I won't say how inexpensive, but it was surprising. It was so inexpensive my daughter could pay for it herself. So anyway, thank you so much. You gave me a wealth of information. I really appreciate it. So if you are going anywhere for any reason out of the country, make sure you talk to Robert, because you'll want to get the very comprehensive health coverage for your trip. Thank you, Robert. And I also want to thank Darren for passing along a referral to me that has led to close business with website development. I'm not going to say who, but thank you very much for the referral. I really appreciate it. So awesome. I saw one other hand. All right. 2 hands. Okay, you guys are the last 2, all right?
I actually wanted to thank Allison Garino, who connected me with a really well-known actress to promote my skincare products. The actress and I met, and she tried my skincare products, she loved them, and so she's going to tweet about them and give my brand a lot of attention, and Allison set that up, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely amazing.
And I wanted to thank Katrina. So we talk about skincare products and think a lot about women, but I actually bought 2 non-traditional products from her. I bought a razor cream for my husband's, shaving, and also a tooth powder and mouthwash. So there's a lot more to the collection than just skincare. So I wanted to share that and really enjoy the products.
Great. All right, everybody, so here's the bottom line. When you come to a place where you can meet people of all different types of businesses and all different types of backgrounds, you get a chance to get to know them. Not only are you, not only do you have a resource that you can use for your own personal, use to buy something or use their service, but you have a resource for all your family and your friends and your clients. See, that's what I love about the West LA Chamber. That's why some of us who've been here for a very long time keep coming, because we like having a group of trusted resources of people that we've known over time who can deliver the products and services that they say they can. And so that enables us to be much more of a value to our customers with all these different resources. So give yourselves a round of applause, everybody. Really hard to think of that work. And here's the key. If you come to chamber events, and you get to know people, and you set up appointments for grab a coffee or a lunch or something after the breakfast or sometime during the week, you really get to know those people's business, chances are you're going to find somebody that can use their products or services. And, what goes around comes around. The more referrals you give to other folks, the more referrals are going to come your way. So that's the way it works here. All right, we good? Okay, a couple of announcements. What I'd like to do, we have several events coming up. Our next event will be the networking at noon, and that's going to be at Maria's Italian Kitchen, I believe. Do we have, Malaya, are you here? I know Barbara's not here.
She's not, but I'm hosting it.
Oh, come on over here and tell us about the networking at noon. Thank you.
Okay, networking at noon is from 12 to 1:30. I believe it's going to be on February the 11th at Maria's Italian Kitchen in Westwood. And yeah, so you're welcome to come out. A group of us get together every month, and it's a really, really great time to connect more intimately with other members of the chamber in a more relaxed environment. So please come out. We'd love to speak with you.
Great, thank you very much. And that's from noon till 1:30?
To 1:30.
Yeah, noon to 1:30 at Maria's Italian Kitchen, right across the street from Westfield, or from the West Side Pavilion. Yes, not from Westfield, don't go over there. They're going to do construction.
Not in Westwood.
That's right, West Side Pavilion, here in West LA. Okay, good. And the next event we have after that, February 23rd, is the West Side Women's Networking Group is going to have a talk. Do you want to talk about that, since you've been a former speaker and sponsor and a regular participant? That's going to be February 23rd, which is a Tuesday, I believe, correct?
It is.
Tell us a little bit about it, and tell us about the Women's Networking Group and what it's all about.
Absolutely. So the West LA Chamber Women's Networking Group meets monthly, and our goal is to provide the resources that women in the chamber want and women in the community. So we do have the opportunity for you to bring a friend if you'd like, and we pick our topics based on what the group would like. So I actually hosted last month, and we did goal setting. Buzz will be our speaker this month to talk about SEO. It's held at the Rodeo Realty on San Vicente. We have a meetup group, and things are also available on the Chamber website.
Great. Do you want to tell people what the title of the presentation is?
The title is 50 Shades of Great, and then what's the,
How to make your website completely.
how to make your website completely irresistible. Really important.
Thank you very much. So if you are of the female persuasion and you would like to, that sounds like an attractive topic for you, please come join and talk to Allison or you can go on the website and actually get, you can RSVP there. It is, I believe, free for female members of the West LA Chamber, and I think it's $10 for non-members. So you can check on the website to see that. And the guys are not invited. I'll be the only guy there, as far as I know. So, okay, great. And then we do have an after-hours mixer coming up. It's going to be TBD in terms of the location, but it is the third Thursday of the month. I believe that is the 28th? Anyway, go to westlachamber.com. You can see all of our events there. You'll see a listing of events on the right-hand side. If you click on the event, you'll see the calendar. You can go in and see where it is. You'll also be able to RSVP and or pay online for the event. I think that's all of the admin that I have. The last admin that I want to get to is if you would like to be a presenting sponsor of one of our breakfasts and be able to speak for 5 or 10 minutes to this audience, to be able to put your information on all the tables, to be featured in the email on the website, please talk to Molly. There are openings for this year. I'm not sure how many months are available, but there are openings, so please talk to Molly, and she will be able to get you signed up, and it's a great way to do it. The last time I sponsored a breakfast, it's been a little while now, but out of that meeting came a referral that led to a website and pay-per-click advertising client because they liked what they heard on my presentation. So it does work, by the way. So, all right, am I forgetting anything? Right, who wants to do some networking? Does anybody want to do some networking? I think I'm doing some networking, yes, thank you. All right, so we're going to do 2 rounds of table networking. We're going to start off. For those of you who this is your first time, I'm going to set my timer and bring it up here to the podium. But each table, we're going to have somebody do the timing. So I'm going to do the timing at this table over here, even though we're small. If you guys want to come over to our table, you're welcome to join us. Each table is going to have one person doing the timing. Each person is going to get 60 seconds to do their personal presentation. And your 60 seconds is essentially, you guys have all heard the term elevator pitch. Tell us who you are, what you do, why you're special, and what would be a good referral for you. And that's going to take up your 60 seconds. While you do that, please pass your business cards around so that everyone can take your business card and associate a face with the name, and that's going to help everyone's recall. Timers at the table will let you know when your 60 seconds is through, and then as we're getting close to wrapping up, I'll make sure everyone gets a 2-minute warning. So, do we have any questions? Once we've done that, we will hear from either our sponsor or our assembly member, depending on whether or not he's here, and then we'll do another round of table networking after that. All right, any questions? All right, so if I can have a timer at every table. We have an Allison do the timer over here, and do the timer at here. Wonderful. What it is my very special pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Assemblymember Sebastian Ridley-Thomas was elected in 2013 to represent California's 54th Assembly District. Now, the list of things that Assemblymember has done is a very long and strong biography. I do recommend that you guys Google him, and you'll see all the great things he's done. But pretty much everything that he's done in the recent past has all served the 54th District. And the 54th District specifically includes Century City, Culver City, Westwood, Mar Vista, Palms, Baldwin Hills, Windsor Hills, Ladera Heights, View Park, Crenshaw, Leimert Park, Mid-City, and West LA. So really, this is our opportunity to hear from our elected representative and an opportunity for you guys to ask some questions afterwards. So, Assembly member, please come on up here. We're very excited to have you. Let's have a warm welcome. Here you go. You can have a podium or not. Your choice.
Yeah, I'll stick to the podium.
Okay.
I find solace in podiums. Well, good morning to each and every one of you. Thank you for allowing me to join you. I bring greetings on behalf of your friends and neighbors who represent various portions of Los Angeles, but in Sacramento today. They're jealous that I got to be here. They did. And they know that they probably know all the faces in this room. That's why they're jealous. In Sacramento, send their regards. We have begun the legislative session in earnest, largely because the governor has put out a budget proposal, and it's pretty unique in some of the goals and aspirations. And we have to figure out if Democrats and Republicans in Sacramento can find pretty unique common ground, build on some successes we've achieved in the recent past, and fight for some improvements to the state's activities and how we work with various actors. A quick note of levity. I know that this group, I see a few red ties in here, so it may be a Trump audience, but
Valentine's Day coming up soon, huh?
We're in retail business. But the national political activity, I think, is interesting. I chair the Committee on Elections and Redistricting, and I can't tell you how often I get queries about why we don't move the presidential primary up again. I say again because some of you, most of you in this audience are quite young, I can tell, but some of you may remember in 2008, we did move the presidential primary to February. And we did not move the primary for all the other elections. So we had two primaries in 1 year, one in February and one in June. And we had, I think, uniquely high turnout in February and uniquely low turnout in June. And that was statewide. The one exception was the Board of Supervisors race in the 2nd District, which was contested, where turnout was decently high in June and November. But that was an anomaly in the rest of the state. And what we found out is because that election was a protracted election, it took longer than we expected. Had we left the primary in June, we actually may have had a significant impact on the nominating contest in the Democratic and Republican Party. But most of the interview, if you remember at the time, was in the Democratic race, in the Democratic primary. The Republican primary was settled much earlier than was the Democratic primary. So from someone who might want to see electoral activity, who might want to see candidates come for other than cash, who want to see people get out and work the vote and actually spend resources in California to register voters, generate activity, which then usually electoral activity, canvas mail, radio, TV, volunteers and paid staff in the state, and which is really when you see turnout generally increase. We would have probably, in hindsight, been better positioned had we been in June of 2008. So we learned that lesson, and we decided this year to not move the primary. Interesting things are occurring. Senator Boxer's retirement has led to a rare challenge in the Senate. And we have two vigorous campaigns among most. They happen to both be Democrats, and we can see, particularly the first time in a long time where, because about 50 years ago, California changed its voting patterns. We used to have some form of a jungle primary. It was called cross-filing. If you remember, nobody in this room is old enough to remember this, but Pat Brown actually was elected as a Republican and a Democrat. I guess that explains Jerry Brown's path. Because you could file for both parties. I think that still occurs in the state of New York and a few other states. So you could have two people who were technically of the same party, but had been endorsed by other parties. We now have a system where it's the top two regardless of party. Representative Sanchez of Orange County and the state attorney general are running campaigns that seem to have the most energy apparently. I think the last polling, which is maybe a couple of weeks ago in January, indicates that they are well ahead of the Republican field and could easily end up being facing each other not only in June but in November. The reason I mention that is because that would be one of the marquee races that may stimulate turnout in certain sectors of the state in June. And then if it goes to November, potentially, will generate a lot of interest. So for those who are also concerned that California is not going to get the attention, we know which way we're going to go. I think conventional wisdom might say we're likely to go Democratic. We have and that is in the general election since 1992. For the Democratic presidential nominee, there are complicating factors. I think that reasonable minds can accept. One is the state of the two major party nominations, and if a third party emerges or an independent candidate emerges, most viable or possible candidate in that realm is Michael Bloomberg. So if you have two, let's just say for hypothetical, if you have Bernie Sanders and either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, and Michael Bloomberg is a third party candidate, an independent candidate, that would be a likely very competitive November election in a state like California, because you have significant portions of the population that would likely be attracted to each of the candidates, but none would have a commanding majority. Thus, they would have to spend pretty heavily. The other thing that's interesting, one more comment about the primary. In California, part of the reason why the primary is later is because you have to run a real national campaign in California. Running for governor in California is the same thing as running for president anywhere else. It costs about, to be competitive in a gubernatorial race, it's roughly $80 to $100 million.
That's crazy.
Now, the limits are higher in the money's raised, and once you get the endorsement of a political party, you can raise significantly more money through the party apparatus to registered voters of that party, either Democrat or Republican. But if we were to move our primary up to Super Tuesday or the end of January or something similar, most candidates wouldn't be able to even begin to work in the state. You can't meet payroll and buy television in California. In Los Angeles alone, as I recall, now the Los Angeles market, you may know, is a 4 or 5 county market. It's different from other places, because other places they break up the franchise into much smaller parts. If we were in a different state or a different region, we might have 4 or 5 television markets as opposed to one unified television market. But to run daily in Los Angeles at one point was $175,000 a day for television ads on the single-digit channels, and it's a little bit, there's a premium on the double-digit, and then the satellite. I guess it's a triple-digit channel. So this makes it prohibitively expensive. So you see people who will spend something like $100 million, $80 million, and you say, well, where did it all go? It's repetitive television. If you do it for 2 or 3 months, there's tens of millions of dollars easily gone. And to run a statewide operation, you need 5 or 6 offices by region. We have 58 counties in the state, so you're not talking about counties, you're just talking about regions. And in Los Angeles, we're probably 2 or 3 regions alone. That's another thing as you think about it. And the reason I mention it is because I literally get this call and email from somebody in Los Angeles or San Francisco or in the entire Central Valley. I don't move it up. Oh, well, because we did.
Right.
But we want everybody to ride the race very quickly. It might end the election sooner. The other thing that I think, for those who are concerned about turnout and the like, or electoral activity in Los Angeles or in California, you need not worry because the November ballot will be full of measures and questions.
Right.
So from the interest of the West LA Chamber, and I think part of BizCare, which I think is taking an active role in the development proposal, that we see to limit development, that may have us much more similar to our friends in the north in San Francisco with respect to restrictions on high-rise development and mega development. There'll be a great deal of activity locally, and if you haven't engaged, I'm sure that you all will be soon. It will have a significant impact, as I understand it. I'm not sure if it's qualified on the local ballot yet, the citywide ballot, but it will have broad implications as currently styled and fashioned, that restrictions on mega development proposal. But on the statewide ballot, I believe that we've already seen 5 November measures qualified, and there are another 35 in circulation. So somebody has a lot of money to pay for those circulating.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you, you all are very astute, but when you go to the grocery store, particularly on the weekends, be very careful what you sign.
Right.
Because that's where most of the signatures are coming from. It's those mass gatherings. We don't see on the signature gathering, it's not really a canvas. It's that it costs roughly, it's believed about $2.5 million to get the number of ballot signatures required for any number of proposals. You can find the number of signatures. I mean, if you just think of the most absurd thing, California says the sky is green and has to say it in every textbook, you can find 300,000 to 400,000 people, if you have 2 million bucks across the state, who will sign a ballot measure petition. While there may be things that arise with various passions that you hear from the circulators at various public venues, I would caution that you may be well positioned to withhold the signatures at this point. Because it will be quite challenging if we have a 40 proposition ballot. I think the highest we ever got as a statewide ballot was maybe 12 or 15, and there was so much fatigue that so do yourself and your neighbors a favor. I would be remiss among a group of business people and leaders of organizations and community groups to not mention the fiscal health of the state. The fiscal health of the state is relatively well kept at the moment, and it's largely because people in this state, many people in this room, agreed to raise taxes temporarily. In 2012, we hiked sales tax slightly and tax on income on everybody here. People who make more than $250,000, every bit over $250 is taxed at a higher rate, at a slightly higher rate. That's a 5-year plan that helped us bridge a bit of our structural deficit. The structural deficit was a $4 to $6 million problem depending on year over year. It was exacerbated by this thing that called the vehicle license fee, aka the gas tax, or the car tax rather, that previous Governor Schwarzenegger ran on, among the other things, in the recall and fought with the legislature to reduce. So he reduced it. Fine if you like lower vehicle registration fee, the annual fee that we all grimace when we get a notification in the mail. And then we figured out, well, that went to largely the general fund, and the monies that we typically paid for through that program, through those extra, that level of revenue of $46 billion were public safety and education. So that problem that existed from 2003 or 4 all the way until 2012 has largely been eliminated. State government spending contracted at a rate similar to the economy. It's about a third of the reduction in state revenue in terms of the state headcount and employment. There was a 15% reduction in state workforce. So the state contracted, and we are at spending levels proportionally similar to the middle of Governor Reagan's 2 terms. So either you were not born to be in this room or you were in anything. So the state is prudent with its resources, and that prudence and your resources, I think, serve us well. We have a much better credit rating. We do not spend more than we take in. It is a unique phenomenon in government. We have a truly balanced budget. That said, the taxes expire, and they begin expiring in the middle of this year. So there's a graduated reduction in the heightened sales and income tax, and it is eliminated by the conclusion of calendar year 17. So there's an aggressive dialogue going on now in well, it's across the state, but the governor and some legislative leaders are pretty engaged with external stakeholders, interest groups, about the extension of the taxes, whether or not they are temporary. It appears that they will be, and then whether or not they still include income or if they are just sales tax. Yet to be determined. In a week or so we'll know, because the deadline for signature gathering is just a few weeks away, so that has to be determined. And you can't change something once it gets signatures. So that's the biggest thing on the ballot. I mean, for all that, that's the thing that's going to affect everybody. If we don't have revenues, you're going to see a reduction in services or a lack of growth. And as a chamber, you can appreciate how if you don't grow, it's tantamount to a cut. If you can't keep up, if you aren't able to pay decent wages for your employees, or the profit can't make sense for you as a business person if you're solo, and the cost of materials, goods and services and the like are very difficult to keep up with if you have a restricted spending patterns. And the state appendages and state authorized entities roughly employs about 300 to 325,000 people. The annual spend is not everything that the legislature controls. The legislature controls about a third of this number, I'm getting ready to say. But it's about $400 billion. It's a big number. Some of it is just we're passing to the federal government or fiduciary, particularly in health and human services programs. The money that we most directly control is about 130 to 140 billion of that. That's what we're negotiating over now. The state's fiscal year begins July 1, ends January 30th. And the way the budget works is the governor works in the fall and winter and makes a proposal in January, by the 10th or 12th of January, in the state constitution. And the legislature negotiates over the governor's plan from January to June. There's a revision based on tax collections in May. That's called the May revision. So if you ever see things from my office or other legislators asking for your input, or if you know of programs, services, activities, and the like that you want to see around April going into May, that's actually when decisions are additionally made based on what we anticipate that we had. So I think that important to bring to light and let you know that we're trying to manage it well, but if we lose 4 to 6 billion going forward, anticipate that, well, one, education takes 42 cents of every dollar, so education will not grow. We're trying to honor education, lift it up. K-12, early childhood are the ones that are guaranteed constitutional spending. Prop 98 of 1988 guarantees that 42 cents on every general fund dollar go to state into education programs, K-14. And then we try to get the higher ed apparatus, CSU and UC, another 8 to 9%. So it's roughly half of every state general fund dollar at $130 to $140 billion will go to some form of education. I only mention this because the things that people care most about, because we poll rather regularly, do surveys, and ask the opinions of you and your neighbors and friends across the state, are jobs, the economy, and education in that order. And safety comes up from time to time in light of issues like San Bernardino or rising crime that we saw in Los Angeles this past summer. But jobs, the economy, and education, everything kind of flows from that. So that's what we try to figure out, how to message on, how to be articulate about how to elevate and the like. One particular issue that I think is important to raise for this meeting and to share and work in partnership on is some of the challenges that we've had in our legacy industrial corridors. As you know, we are dealing with the continued challenges with the Porter Ranch leak and attempting to cap and close the well. It doesn't affect everyone in the region directly, but we have a lot of storage facilities. We have one at the edge of my district operated by SoCal Gas. It's a legacy oil field, traditional petroleum oil field, and now they store natural gas. The importance of storage of natural gas is that so it was cold this morning, you turned on your heater last night or early this morning, you draw from what was Aliso Canyon, Porter Ranch, or the Playa del Rey field, which is in at the intersection of Marina del Rey, Los Angeles City, and the city of Culver City, in the Jefferson Biona wetlands, right adjacent to the Biona wetlands. And that's important for the management of our energy needs and resources. The leak at Aliso Canyon, known as Porter Ranch, has raised concerns about pipelines and infrastructure, and what government can do there to make sure that we have the state-of-the-art infrastructure, that the companies are maintaining as best they can, and that when we do have challenges, and there are, unfortunately, as we know, I think we can all recognize there are hazards with industrial activity, all industrial activity, and the question is what the science and our regulatory environment allow for the correction, and if there's malfeasance, how we take appropriate action and say, never again, not here, this is not acceptable. If you think that it's appropriate to do that, you need to leave this region, whether you be in management, middle management, or ranking file worker. That leads me to an even bigger disaster, unfortunately, man-made, which has, in my opinion, much more, is likely to have much more civil and criminal penalties attached to it in the long run, I suspect, and you can hold me to that assertion, is the Exide Battery Recycling Facility in Vernon. We all know where the city of Vernon is, southeast of downtown Los Angeles. It is an industrial city that is not very large in size. It has 55,000 jobs attached to the hundreds of businesses that are there. It is the meat packing logistics and transportation, manufacturing core of Los Angeles, and it is a part of a greater cluster of southeast manufacturing facilities that are a legacy of this area's industrial heritage. Vernon has had some challenges, and they've worked, that is, the city of Vernon has had its challenges, and has worked to improve its civic participation and governance. And unfortunately, there are actors who have been, corporate actors who have been operating in Vernon in lawless states for so long that they have compromised all of our health, and that is not acceptable. Most people know that I'm probably the most pro-growth person that represents West Los Angeles, unabashedly and without blinking. But anybody with sense who lives in Los Angeles knows that you can't engage in activity that threatens our health, because that ultimately will undermine economic activity. The issue at Vernon in particular, unfortunately, has a regulatory challenge as well. The Vernon XI recycling plant, battery recycling plant, operated on a conditional license by the State Department of Toxic Substance Control for 31 years. This is not a common pattern in the licensure of toxic facilities. In that conditional operating pattern, somehow the employees at the plant thought it appropriate, and the management sanctioned it, and regulators allowed that there would be dumping of what amounts to toxic sludge into the drains associated with the property, and that there would be such emissions from the recycling processes that were vented through the air, some flared, some not, largely not, that built up a pretty odious stench across the city. Now, it's an industrial city, and it smells like industry, and they are odd smells. This plant stood out as a pretty, what appears, bad actor. Los Angeles County public health officials suspect that there were about 10,000 people, 10,000 homes, corrected, immediately affected by some of the air quality issues. Further, because of the dumping into the drain system, some of which were into, this isn't a technical term, but the unpiped portion of the drain system, that ground contamination, not groundwater quite, but just the contamination of soil, may extend to an area, and this is a study that's going on now, we'll know pretty soon. It's roughly 24 square miles, and that is under areas as far west, not as where we're standing now, but as the Assembly District I represent in the South LA portion of the Assembly District that I represent. It's estimated that there's several million people that are in portions of Los Angeles that may be affected by this ground contamination. Because air quality, you get air quality, but the air doesn't stay that way all the time. The ground, however, particularly depending on how deep it is, it doesn't have to be more than, it can be less than 100 feet, because the water tables are not much further than that, but it's very difficult to clean that up. And this is a result of bad decisions by a number of actors. Regulators are complicit. There should not have been the issuance of a permit, and it should not have been conditional for a pretty challenging process like battery recycling. You should know, and you may appreciate, that in air quality management, Los Angeles has pioneered some of the smartest way that you capture and mitigate emissions. All industrial activity has outcomes, some of which are not always as favorable to human health, but we do have significant mitigations. So for the 6 oil refineries that are in the Los Angeles area, largely in the South Bay and San Pedro, they capture the emissions and fumes from their various activities. There are 4 or 5 major processes that cause major emissions, and they put them through what is the equivalent of large, in your car you have a catalytic converter if you live in California. They use converters to clean up the emissions, and then if there's a backlog of emissions, they have a responsibility and right under federal, state law and regulation to flare emissions that are stuck in their pipes that may back up and cause combustion. This plant appears not to have been using those best practices. Literally, we pioneered it in California, and they have decided that this particular site, the Exide facility, and the reason I'm spending this time is because it will affect all of us. It was potentially the largest man-made environmental hazard toxin case in California history. And there was a systematic failure for decades to address the issue. The major chemical exposure appears to be lead, which I think many of us are familiar with the dialogue and conversations around it for many years. But there are also the cleaning materials that we all know. I think benzene may be one and the like, that there are higher levels of. The other reason why this study from the county is going to be so important about the ground contamination is because you can largely trace it from the source. Air issues and lead are unfortunately so pervasive, particularly because of the age of the properties immediately surrounding the site, that using lead paint, that it's much harder. Though you can get some precision. If there's lead paint in a residence, then you can't ascribe all of the challenges that come with overexposure to lead, the developmental issues, cancer, developmental issues in children, cancer, premature death, and other significant health concerns that are caused by exposure to lead. And they call them higher than. It's higher than, not expected, but rather higher than advisable levels of lead, to which the people immediately surrounding the burning Exide plant have been exposed. So what does it mean for West LA Chamber? You all run enterprises. Many of you are in business or in related institutions that operate to serve the public, either with the delivery of goods and services, or you work in institutions that do the same. It's a responsibility of good faith actors like yourself. People who join chambers of commerce, particularly chambers of commerce such as the West LA Chamber, are responsible and solid citizens. They want to promote good government, they want to promote civic engagement, and they want to promote healthy and robust business climate, a healthy and robust business climate. Actions like those that occurred at the Exide facility do very little other than compromise our health and cause government to say we must significantly ramp up the regulation of toxins. And we must ensure that there is no conditional permit issued to someone who manages toxic waste. The reason being that though most people won't do it, it only really takes one to compromise our environment and our health. So we have to go through a fine-tooth comb. What does that mean? The cost of regulation goes up, and thus the cost of doing business goes up when there are bad faith actors. Because in this particular area, we can really afford no slack. Because if we allow for it, it will compromise each and every one of us. So, to those who are in the chamber, to those who have businesses related to the issue, I'd say be aware, be alert. The legislation, the governor granted the State Department of Toxic Substance Control a great deal more authority for reviewing permits, regular inspections, and the like. The cleanup associated with the excise toxic hazard exposure is likely to be hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of that is being fought now by excise because they have gone through bankruptcy a couple of times, and I think they're in bankruptcy proceedings now. But we will not allow any corporate actor to poison you or your neighbors and get away with it. That's not what's going to be tolerated by this legislation. And I speak not on behalf of the governor, but we all are tied in a web of mutuality on this. And this really doesn't know boundaries. I mean, Vernon is its own separate city. I don't represent Vernon. It's at least 12 or 15 miles from my closest border, but what occurred there for 30 years affects me and where I live and where you work and play, and we'll find new customers and new opportunities. So it's going to be a huge issue, and this is my sharing this and these thoughts with you is critical, because if we don't communicate, if we're not clear, somebody will think that they can do this at a smelting plant or an auto body repair shop, and they'll say, we're providing jobs. Well, okay, if you're poisoning your own employees, if you're poisoning your own neighborhood, if you're causing such troubles that you will not be able to clean it up because of whatever, it's so expensive to do the remediation. And I'm not talking about civil and criminal liability. I'm talking about the obligation to remediate the hazardous waste. If you add civil and criminal up, that can be overwhelming. Because some of these people might end up in both, and rightfully so. Because in some instances, this was straight old school sledge dumping. They kicked the can into the drain and poured out that gas. That's what happened in one of the instances associated with excise. To avoid federal criminal liability, the plant cut a deal with the feds for a fund for remediation. At the time that they cut the deal, it was anticipated the feds to avoid criminal liability or criminal prosecution. It was anticipated that there were 1,000 homes that were affected, and there hadn't been a study of the ground. It was just air quality, and the suspicions around whether or not lead was in the air. Since then, we've discovered that there is a plume. The question is how far does it go? So the plume is likely quite large, and I don't want to be an alarmist, but you need to be aware. This is the responsibility of government to make sure that you all are aware of pressing government maintenance of civil society in order. And there will be disorder, there will be rancor if all of us end up sick because somebody was too silly to be a responsible actor. You pay your taxes, you pay your fees. If you have disputes, sometimes you end up in court, often you mediate, you deal with law enforcement and regulatory agencies. If you have a restaurant like Greek Delphi, you gotta have we went to the celebration, what was it, 30 years or something like that? That had clearly been a licensed and appropriately permitted regulated business.
Good house.
Because everybody was there, the planning commission, the law enforcement, the public health folks, elected representatives from across the state. And if you go through all of those hoops and are able to maintain good records, pay taxes, all that stuff, do excellent community relations, how can we let somebody off the hook who is engaged in something that's really out of a cartoon in terms of how silly it is to dump? So I would encourage you all to learn a bit more about excise excellent information on KPCC. Our office is going to start a blog about it, and we'll put it on our Facebook, and we'll have links to it from our Twitter account. But this is going to be, the reason why I'm taking the time is because it's that significant. The people who have led most on it are Kevin De Leon and Ricardo Lara, who are members of the state senate because they represent portions in the area next to Vernon. But this is an LA County health crisis, hence why the Department of Public Health has stepped in. Supervisor Hilda Solis is leading the charge now. We look forward to seeing what will be coming from that. But from a chamber perspective, there's going to be, in response, I mean, you know that they're pendulum swings, right? We had Glass-Steagall in the 30s. We got rid of portions of it in the 90s. We had the dot-com and the Enron challenges, and then we come up with Sarbanes-Oxley. That wasn't sufficient enough to prevent the Bear Stearns, Lehman issues in the global recession. So you get significant responses as a pinnacle. I hope not to overdo it, but there's clearly something wrong when you get to operate on a temporary license for 3 decades. Thank you.
I have a question, actually. What is the best, first of all, who do you hear from more? Do you hear more from organizations like Chamber or business owners or BizFed or things like that? Or do you hear more from community and neighborhood councils and things like that, or from residents themselves? That's the first question. The second question is, how can we best let you know what we need, or how can we share our opinions with your office about what we're seeing and what our idea is to help grow the business community in West LA?
Well, I hear a great deal from, frankly, retired individuals who have a lot of time to see that. And in this area, that means that you're probably a member of either the Democratic Club or the public interest groups related to likely the environment. That those are kind of the two of the larger ones. Neighborhood groups. The environmental movement is probably the more unifying grassroots piece that I hear about. And then Democratic activists, there's a significant Democratic activist base in the district I represent, particularly the West LA district. But the way that I think the West LA Chamber businesses in general, they have a friend and a listening ear. And when you bring concerns to me, whenever you don't have to do it all the time, but if you choose to, yes, you don't have to do it all the time. But if you choose to, which is a good thing, our office in Scott Moss, my district director, is here, and Scott, I'm sorry, to give you a round of applause. And he has a team in our office, which is in Culver City. And then we have our office in Sacramento, and we're here to respond so they can be organized, they can be informal. Many of you will come to my office, I try to meet with you. You can't meet with me, a member of the staff, and take the information, and it all gets to me. And sometimes I read very late at night, so if it's urgent, you need to indicate as much, just to get an opinion. But I have confidence that we have a team that can pretty adequately respond. And then if it's a regional issue or a Southern California issue, we share and talk with our colleagues and say, hey, this is, I got a lot of information from the West LA Chamber, the State Chamber, but this means this to our neighborhoods. And sometimes that helps move things along because, we all come with our own personal experiences and we live in different places. I live in South Los Angeles. The district that I think we're physically in is Richard Bloom's district. He lives in Santa Monica. Ben Allen lives in Santa Monica. Fuel doesn't sound loud. Should I move this out loud?
The taxes are higher there.
Yeah, Lord have mercy. Yeah, we was in drawings. So, we all come from different experiences and places, but when we can figure out ways to partner for regional priorities, we certainly try.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, we really appreciate you, and thank you for bringing this issue up and also letting us know the best way for us to communicate what we need and what we see. And we want to make sure that we continue having a dialogue open with our members and chamber members. If you have a significant issue, contact the chamber office. Email info@westlachamber.org with the issue that you'd like to bring up, and we will use that. We will use that dialogue. We'll open up that door. So thank you very much. All right, one more round of applause.